I'm Dionysia Katelouzou. I'm a reader in corporate law at the Dixon Pond School of Law here at King's College London. 5 years ago, when we started the Global Shareholder Stewardship Project, we thought that stewardship was quite a simple thing. We were actually using the term shareholder stewardship. And by that, we were meaning all the different types of engagement by institutional investors within the companies they invest in. So at the beginning, the original thought was that shareholder stewardship is almost synonymous to shareholder engagement, collaboration, escalation. But between then and now, we realized that actually stewardship is much more complex than what we originally thought. Stewardship has many more markets and many more actors. So today is not only about public equity, it's not only about engagement with companies, but it's also about what you're doing as a debt holder, what you're doing with your investment in fixed income, or what you're doing in infrastructure. So all these different types of markets. At the same time, there is a change in the actors. Who is acting as steward? At the same time, in jurisdictions other than the UK or the US, you have controlling shareholders, you have family owners, and those can be stewards too. So stewardship is becoming much more complex, and there are varieties of stewardship. And we can see there are varieties of means and varieties of tools, varieties of aims. Originally, it was about corporate governance. It was always about trying to transform passive investors to active investors. Today, it's not about that. It is about governance. It's still about the G, but it's also about the E and S of ESG. It's about climate change, it's about systematic risks, it's about biodiversity, it's about social political risks or geopolitical risks. So all these type of things. And then at the same time, to add a bit on that complexity, you have different levels. You can be stewards with a specific company, but you can be steward with your whole portfolio, or in an industry, for instance, fossil fuel companies. And you can also be steward with you can be a steward in the sense that you engage with policymakers. So we are talking about stewardship at different levels, at different markets, with different actors. And in a way, we can say that we are talking about an enlightened type of stewardship, an enlightened form of stewardship. And this, I think, connects quite well with the theme of responsible capitalism, because you can't really think of responsible capitalism without stewardship. One cannot really go without the other. Institutional investors are part and parcel of capitalism. And I suppose the role of policymakers, the role of standard setters, is to make sure that those institutional investors can really act as responsible capitalists, as responsible owners. And this is part of what the stewardship codes are trying to do, both in the UK but also abroad. But we realize that shareholder stewardship as a term is not enough, perhaps, to describe what can be included or what can be involved under the remit of stewardship. I suppose the tricky thing is to first identify what is actually it's about trying to identify the problem that you try to solve, or maybe the problems that you try to solve with stewardship, and what type of stewardship. Because if you start from the traditional idea, the UK style of stewardship, the shareholder stewardship, then it's quite simple. You are asking institutional investors to engage to fix corporate governance issues, or potentially to fix environmental issues and social issues, but through shareholder engagement. So the idea is simple, the execution is tricky. And the reason for that is that you are asking something that is not compatible with the business models of most investors. Take, for instance, index funds. You can't really ask from an index fund to engage with every single company in the portfolio. So I think by definition, the fate of the traditional idea of shareholder stewardship was doomed to fail because of that inconsistency between a simple idea and complex models. So now I think we are in a situation when we realize that, and we try to, we try to transform stewardship into a more complicated idea so we can match the business models. So we try to bring stewardship, investor stewardship, closer to the business models. So it's not only about engagement. You can have a passive portfolio and still act as a good steward. You can have an active portfolio and still act as a good steward. And equally, you can have a concentrated activist portfolio and still act as a good steward. So now the trouble here is that because you complicate the notion of stewardship to match the portfolio, the business strategies, it is much more complex for the regulators and the policymakers and the standard setters to make sense of that complex stewardship ecosystem. The obvious answer is you try to solve climate change, you try to address climate change, but again, how you try to meet different objectives, how you meet, how you achieve alpha, but at the same time being loyal to your clients and beneficiaries, achieving and promoting climate change, biodiversity, protecting or avoiding future conflicts, or how you react when there are geopolitical risks, when you have investments in a country which faces embargo, let's say, how you vote in those situations, how you exercise your rights. So I think there is no answer as to how, as to what we expect from a steward in times of uncertainties. But I think that uncertainties, especially as the COVID-19 pandemic revealed, they do have, they played a key role in rethinking about what it means to be a good steward. And maybe it wasn't just because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but currently there is a lot, there is more and more discussion about the social aspects of investments, about the environmental aspects of investments. So I would say that, E, S, and G are going all together, and there is more and more realization that that's the way forward.